everybody, Mrs. Reiser showing you today an example of how to extract lipid from a food sample. I'm going to show you how to set up a potato chip sample. The lab that we're running in class calls for both chocolate chips and potato chips for comparison. They're really similar in setup. The only difference there would be for chocolate chips you'd need to use a mortar and pestle to crush them. Potato chips are so crispy and crunchy you can just crush them with your fingers. So I would start by taking the mass of my empty beaker here, set it on my balance, and record that number somewhere. That's an important piece of data. We'll want to know it later on. Then I'm going to take a weigh boat and I'm going to zero my balance out. I'm going to grab a sample of food. Just got some potato chips from the grocery store here, and I want about a 5-gram sample. So I'm going to get as close to 5 grams as I can. If I'm a little bit over, a little bit under, that's okay. There we go. I've got 4.9 grams there on the balance. I'm going to transfer this. And just for good measure, I'm actually going to mass this one more time. Let me re-zero it. And I'm going to write that number down as well. So this is the mass of my sample with my dry food in it, my raw food. Once I've got that information, I'm going to take my fingers and just crush the potato chips a little bit, make them a little bit smaller, a little easier to work with, because I'm going to add some acetone. And I want that liquid to contact as much of my food sample as possible. I'm going to pour 10 milliliters here into a graduated cylinder to measure it. And then just put it on my sample of food. I've got goggles on, protecting my eyes. If you've ever smelled nail polish remover before, it smells very much like what I'm smelling right now, because acetone has one of the key ingredients in nail polish remover typically. I'm also going to give this a small swirl with a stir rod. This is just a glass stir rod. Really make sure all that liquid touches the food. And I'm now going to decant the liquid. That's just a fancy way of saying I'm going to remove the liquid and leave the solid behind. For that, I'm using this plastic micro pipette. Looks just like a little eyedropper. So I'm going to slide this in to the liquid and just squirt it into a petri dish. And it's probably hard to see on camera, but the liquid that I'm removing definitely has a little bit of a sheen to it. It looks like there is some maybe oil or fat mixed in with it. And I'm trying hard not to get any of the solid pieces of potato chip, just the liquid. And to get the best results, it's really helpful if you do a second acetone wash. So I'm going to get one more 10 milliliter sample of acetone, put it on the potato chips, give it a swirl, give it a stir. And the reason we're using acetone is you might realize that lipid, I almost poured that in by hand. What am I doing here? Here we go. Lipid dissolves well in acetone, but not so well in water. So if I were to try to do this with water, you know how when you use water to wash something that's oily or greasy, the oil tends to just kind of clump up and not break up in the water well, because water and oil don't mix. Well, acetone is actually a really good solvent for lipids and fats. It will dissolve them really well. So when the acetone hits this food, any oil or fat lipid that's in it is going to mix well with the acetone. So if I pull this liquid out, all of the lipid from my food sample, well, I don't know about all of it, but hopefully most of it, is going to come with that liquid. So what I'm going to do now is just clean everything up, and I will leave these 2 containers overnight. All that acetone will evaporate. It happens to dry really fast. I'll come back tomorrow and I will mass this container again. If I subtract out the weight of my beaker, I'll then know the weight of food that's left in here. So that would be the weight of my dry food. I can figure out by doing some subtraction what mass of lipid left my sample and went into this petri dish. I can take some observation on the petri dish tomorrow as well and see what this looks like once my acetone has evaporated out of it.